Today, we're going to be dispelling the lies about bankruptcy. We're going to be talking about the truth behind bankruptcy. Now, I am not a bankruptcy attorney, and if you are truly considering filing for bankruptcy, I encourage you to speak to a bankruptcy attorney. So after you watch this video, go and talk to a bankruptcy attorney in your state to find out the specific laws for your state and to find out if you even qualify for bankruptcy. Because that's the first lie, is that everyone thinks that they qualify for bankruptcy. They think, oh, it doesn't matter. I can file for bankruptcy. I'm broke. I don't have any money. I can file for bankruptcy. The truth is that's not always the case. You have to find out if you even qualify to file for bankruptcy. And you might not, because most people don't actually qualify. And so let's go off the assumption that you do qualify for bankruptcy. Here are the two bankruptcies that you are typically going to file for. Now, there are bankruptcies for businesses, and we're not going to talk about that because that's a whole nother gamut of things. We're just going to be talking about personal bankruptcy and if it is something that you truly should consider doing. Because I can tell you, I had a personal family member who did file for bankruptcy, and I can tell you, it takes an emotional toll on you, one like you will never believe. It is something that I think a lot of people, when they file for bankruptcy, are not prepared for. They're not prepared for how it just messes with you mentally and emotionally. So you need to understand that this is beyond just wiping the slate clean, because that's not really what bankruptcy does. Bankruptcy does not just wipe your slate clean and you don't just get to start over and it's this brand new, beautiful life that you're just like, whoa, I'm going to win this time. I'm going to win this time. I can do this time. That's not really how it plays out. It's really not. Because bankruptcy does not just give you a clean slate. It does not just make everything all better. It really does not do that. So you need to be prepared. The first bankruptcy that we're going to talk about is at Chapter 7. This is usually the one that a lot of people think of when they think of bankruptcy. They think, oh, I'm just going to get my clean slate. I'm good. I'm golden, right? Wrong. First off, bankruptcy costs money. There's no such thing as a free bankruptcy. You have to pay money in order to file for bankruptcy. Now, this is not including the bankruptcy attorney that you might need in order to file bankruptcy. The starting point for Chapter 7 bankruptcy is $1,500, and then it goes up from there. Chapter 13, the starting point's about $15,000, and then it goes up from there. Again, depending on your state, these numbers could be slightly different, but that's usually the ballpark that they fall within. So if you're sitting there going, I'm dead broke, how can I afford that? Case in point, right? Bankruptcy is not a clean slate. It's not a clean slate. And what happens is a lot of folks will end up going and taking a cash advance on their credit card to pay for the bankruptcy. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you don't got the money to pay for the bankruptcy, don't file for bankruptcy. But let's look at what Chapter 7 is actually all about. When it comes to Chapter 7, it's liquidation, essentially. What's going to happen is a trustee is going to be appointed over your property. So any property that you have, like any assets that can be liquidated and sold off, car, house, rental property, boat, four-wheelers, chainsaw, whatever, doesn't matter. Any property that you have that can be sold off for cash, that's what's going to happen. They're going to liquidate those assets in order to pay back the creditors. Now, depending on the state that you live in, you may be able to keep certain things out of the bankruptcy process. So you might be able to say like, oh, I'm going to pay off the car. I'm going to pay off the car. I can make the car payment. So I'm going to keep the car. Or you can maybe do it with your house. But this is, again, dependent upon your state, because usually it's a trustee that's going to come over and is going to now basically take ownership of everything that you have and is going to liquidate it all and then pay off your creditors. Now, in a Chapter 13, it's a little bit different. In the Chapter 13, you will again have a trustee that is appointed over you. This is typically for about 5 to 7 years. This trustee is going to be in control over your money. In order to file a Chapter 13, you have to have a reliable and steady source of income. And they will typically allow you to keep your property. But what happens is that the trustee is the one that actually manages how and when things get paid. The court will actually approve your repayment plan and your budget. And so the trustee is put into place to make sure that you comply with that repayment plan. and that you basically stick to your budget. They are the ones that will actually collect the money from you and pay the creditors for you. That is how Chapter 13 works. The thing is that a lot of people think, oh, this sounds so perfect. This is perfect. This is what I need. I'll totally get in control over my money because somebody else is going to be taking care of it for me. No. Think about this. Do you really want someone to tell you how you can spend your money? Do you really want someone making those decisions for you and for your family on what you can and cannot spend your money on? Chances are, no, you don't. But that's what happens in a Chapter 13. Somebody else is sitting up here telling you how and when you can spend your money. That's what they're doing. That's their job. They were appointed by the court in order to do this because your creditors are expecting to get paid, and that trustee is the one that has to make sure that it happens. One of the other lies about bankruptcy is that bankruptcy just gets rid of everything. It just cleans the slate, right? That's not true because student loans are not eligible to be wiped clean. You still have to pay your student loans, no matter the bankruptcy that you file. It does not matter. Your student loans are still going to be there. They're still going to be there. The other things that do not go away with bankruptcy are any back owed taxes, child support, and alimony. So those are other things that are not going to go away if you file for bankruptcy. So if you file for bankruptcy, make sure you understand that. Because a lot of people end up filing bankruptcy because they owe the IRS so much money. And they don't realize that the taxes are not going to disappear. You're still going to owe that money. You're still going to owe it. It's not going away. You still have to pay it. And because in a Chapter 13, there's not the liquidation process that there is in a Chapter 7, some of the debts that you have in place, so while you're repaying them with the trustee that's overseeing the debt and everything, while you're repaying those, some of those debts are still going to accrue the interest. So you're still going to be paying a ton of interest on these debts, all while having someone else manage your money for you, essentially. Not to mention that the trustee is going to get paid. This is where part of that, that remember I said it can be about $15,000 in the end for a Chapter 13. That's the attorney fees, the filing fees, plus that's the trustee. The trustee has to get paid to manage your money, and they're going to get paid from you. So really think about this. Think about if this is really what you want to do. Do you really want to file for bankruptcy? Or do you think that maybe if you tightened up your bootstraps a little bit and really started making some difficult decisions and maybe some really hard sacrifices, do you think that maybe, just maybe, that you could be the one to pull yourself up out of this hole? When I was 21 years old, I felt like bankruptcy was my only option. I had an eviction notice on my door. I had over $11,000 of credit card debt. I had a brand new car, and I was living in an apartment that was way above my pay grade, y'all. It was way above my pay grade, okay? The thing is I was dead broke. I was running an almost $1,000 deficit every single month. I had no money. And I vividly remember sitting down on my couch that was costing me an asinine amount of interest every single month, crying into my 80-pound boxer's fur, going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was like, I guess bankruptcy is my only option. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. But after crying a lot and praying, I realized, you know what? No, I can either just let this storm hit me and completely swallow me up, or I can stand up and do something. And that's what I did. I stood up and I did something. I made my very first budget, which then I promptly cried because I realized I was running a $1,000 deficit every single month. But I also, in that moment of making that budget, I took responsibility. This was my mess. This was not anyone else's mess. I had to clean it up. Just me. I'm the one that did it, so I had to clean it up. I had to take responsibility for the mess I had made. And I ransacked my apartment that night, and I threw everything on my living room floor and sold off every possible thing that I could sell off. It didn't matter if I only sold it for $5. I sold off everything I could. I sold off everything but the bed. Sold off everything. Got rid of the apartment, got rid of the car. I had to do a voluntary repo on the car in order to get myself out of the hole I dug. This is what I had to do. I had to make very tough sacrifices and very tough decisions. I did not like having to stop spending money. I did not like having to tell my friends I couldn't go out and to eat with them anymore. They couldn't hang out. They couldn't do some of these things. I didn't like coming home to a very bare apartment. I didn't like that. I did not. But the choice that I had was either I did this or I let the storm hit me. I ended up pulling myself out of that hole. It was a long and hard journey, but it is one that you can do as well. It's hard. It's very hard. And bankruptcy, yes, always looks like the easier option. It really does. And even to me, it looked like the easier option. But in the end, I had to clean up the mess that I made. So if you are facing a mess, I encourage you that before you go and you consider filing for bankruptcy, that you first ask yourself what you can do to clean up the mess. What is in your wheelhouse that you can do to take back control? Because the only person that has the power to change is you. You're the only one that has power to change you. You're the only person that does. No one else can do that for you. And so ask yourself what it is that you can do to potentially avoid having to file for bankruptcy.